Let's turn our focus to the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, which was supposed to meet tomorrow, but 50% of their members have still not been inducted into the fray. It's a strange and slightly bizarre situation because the tenure of the current lot of MPC members, that is the 3 external members, was well known that it would be ending. The new names and the candidatures are being selected by a government-led panel, which includes the governor or his nominee, a deputy governor. And those names have just not come about. In fact, we were waiting for them maybe up to this evening. What's really going on and how unprecedented is this? The best people to talk about this and get their take are 2 very senior journalists who track RBI and banking and finance very closely, Mythili Bhusnurmath and Tamal Bandyopadhyay. Pleasure to have you on the show. Mythili, let me start with your take. It just seems like one of those things that would be well in place before the last day of the deadline. I mean, these are set in stone. What possibly could be the reason that we still don't have the names of the government nominees on the MPC?
Well, Tamanna, your guess is as good as mine, but I presume these are the usual bureaucratic delays because actually these are very high-level appointments and it requires various clearances. So presumably these clearances have not yet come. But the point is that these, as I said, and as you also mentioned, the last date for these earlier external members is very well known because they are appointed for a 4-year term, which cannot be extended. So it's very hard to understand or comprehend why the government did not have 3 new names in place well in time for the meeting. Unfortunately, since the government, I presume, could not do that in time, the RBI had nothing else to do but to reschedule the meeting. Of course, no reason was given, but this presumably is the reason. Hopefully, we will have the names in place before too late, because the longer the monetary policy remains in a limbo, the worse it is for a country at a time like this, particularly, I would say, at a time like this.
Yeah. I mean, I can't quite think of any reason that, would take precedence or any task which would take precedence over this. Tamal Bandyopadhyay, how are you reading this situation? There was, in the middle of the day, this strange sort of input via sources saying that even if we choose the members today, there will be people who know their job. So, they can get on the job and start the meeting from tomorrow, which also seemed quite, uncoordinated for something of this stature and importance.
Yeah, I think Mythili is pretty charitable in her approach to what has happened, that bureaucratic delay and all the clearances and all. But I think that's I would say, very charitable way of looking at things. Yes, there have been, though, the process is very cumbersome and bureaucratic delays. We can also say that there's a talent, the lack of depth in the talent pool, so that the government is breaking its head to get the right kind of person. Because the clearances, this is not a hugely responsible, in that sense, executive position. That those kind of clearances, it's not that critical or that difficult here. But I think the larger message, and put it very bluntly, is this: we don't take much care about MPC. It's just a tutorial. It's just a body which should not be taken seriously. Had the government taken it seriously after getting 2 months and just before a day, Reserve Bank of India announcing that it's being postponed, it has not used the word postponement. It's a rescheduled because the lack of quorum. Because you need at least 4 members. And 3 members are from the Reserve Bank of India, 3 from the external members. And at the last policy in August, RBI governor announced that this is the last meeting of the MPC. The government had 2 months in hand, and you can't do that. And that's not new. It's been pretty regular feature about the appointments of bank CEOs. But that's a separate story. You are sending a very wrong signal that you don't take MPC very seriously. Not because Reserve Bank of India would have met and gone for a rate cut, but it's a kind of situation where the entire financial sector is looking up at the Reserve Bank of India for its signal. We have seen that the bond issues have been devolving. The first WAMO, which Reserve Bank of India wanted to do, had completely devolved. Normal auctions are devolving. So People wanted to know. The entire market was very keenly watching, and that's the platform which RBI governor would have used to send a signal to the market. Also, the RBI's estimate of GDP for 2021, it has not been done. We are all hoping that RBI would come up with that, and also RBI's take on inflation going forward. So these are the signals to the market. Market was eagerly waiting for, not for any action, but what Reserve Bank of India governor tells the market. And that was the platform which now governor does not have. I mean, on 1st October, you would have faced the media and explained to the media the Indian central bank stance, Asia's third largest economy, where the economy is going, where the inflation is heading towards, is there any hope for rate cut in future, so on and so forth. So at one stroke, you have explained, you have illustrated that MPC is not that important. It's not, minded, it's not the appointment of a bank CEO, which regularly been delayed. It's the MPC, country's monetary policy body. Imagine US Fed announcing that FOMC can't meet because there is no quorum, there is no member. So you said it bizarre. That's the right way of explaining this.
It is bizarre. Mythili, you want to add to that? I mean, Tamal is, plain speak as always. He's saying that this is really important. How can you not do this on time? And do you think it sends out a message of the importance given to the MPC or any such thing?
Oh yes, it certainly doesn't brook very well. But as far as the MPC is concerned, in fact, effectively the Reserve Bank of India has bypassed the MPC, I would say, for quite some time. Because even at the time when the MPC had opted for status quo, the RBI, by infusing a lot of liquidity into the market, had effectively, brought down the rates of interest. In fact, as Tamal himself said, by allowing the auctions to devolve, in fact, by deliberately ensuring that the auctions did devolve and the RBI did not accept any bids, the RBI has in many ways already bypassed the MPC. But this is not to say that the MPC is not important. The MPC is important. It is an important institution that you set in place and completely changed the monetary policy framework some years ago when you adopted inflation targeting. So by not appointing the MPC members, you haven't done any good for the country. In fact, Tamal said the government had 2 months after the last meeting in August. I would say that the government had 4 years because we had the same government in power after the last elections, and the same government continued. So you knew very well when you appointed the first lot of 3 external members that 4 years down the line in 2016 when you appointed them, you knew very well that in September 2020 their term comes to an end. So the process should have been already in place to appoint 3 new members, and it's hard to believe that in a nation of the kind of population that we have, 1 billion odd, we really do not have 3 members who are competent to fit into the shoes, the new MPC members. So very unfortunate, I would say. And if the government felt that it could not do this process in time, it could perhaps have extended the term of the existing members, even though in law that was not allowed. But you did have a monsoon session, so the government could technically have extended. So it certainly does not brook very well for the government or for the Reserve Bank of India or for monetary policy formulation in the country.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. But, just for perspective for our viewers, Mythili, who may not be tracking the way the MPC works, etc., in such detail, what is the significance of these 3 candidates which will be selected? Because these are the ones selected by the government, isn't it? So in a sense, do they also represent the government's point of view inside the committee once they're selected, or that doesn't happen at all? Give us a bit of a background on the significance of these appointments.
The whole idea of having 3 external members was precisely to have that arm's length distance between the government and the formulation of monetary policy. Because fiscal policy is the government's domain, monetary policy is the RBI's domain. And prior to the setting up of the MPC, we had a situation where the governor of the Reserve Bank of India virtually called the shots. We had the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, which only advised. And the governor basically was free to agree or disagree or completely throw out their advice. Whereas ever since you had the formulation of monetary policy by the MPC, the idea was 3 external members, 3 from outside, 3 from within the RBI. And it had to be a majority vote. And in the case of a tie, the governor RBI had the casting vote. So it is important that you have these 3 external members to ensure that monetary policy is not left to the whims and fancies of a single person, the RBI governor. This is not to say that the RBI governor would not take the right decision, quote unquote, but it is simply to ensure that it is not left to the decision of a single member. The idea being that external members in the RBI would together put their heads together and come out with perhaps the best policy for in the circumstances. So the idea of having external members was precisely to ensure that the RBI did not have complete say alone. You would have external members bringing in their own expertise as well. So it is very important in order to ensure that the monetary policy framework, the integrity of that was preserved, that you had these three external members in place. They were not government representatives at all, but they were informed members who have brought in the necessary competence to the job to help the Reserve Bank of India formulate the policy in order to ensure that you had that inflation targeting framework in place. Hence, it was very important to have these three members. And it's unfortunate that because of delay on government's part, we do not have the members in place.
You know, not just delay, no explanation for it as well. No kind of acknowledgement of the delay either. Tamal, I want you to, give us a little bit of, your view of how crucial the next policy is. You've already spoken about how even though a rate cut was not really expected, it would have been a platform to talk about where, the MPC is heading, what they're thinking. With this delay, do you think it sort of hurts that kind of stability that we will know this view also later? We don't even know 50% of the people comprising that committee right now.
No, it's definitely, this is a very critical time, not in terms of rate action. Reserve Bank of India has done it, as Mythili was saying, on two cases. Reserve Bank of India has advanced the MPC meeting and went for a rate cut. Beyond that, on its own, Reserve Bank of India has cut the reverse rate, actually the de facto policy rate when the liquidity is liquidity, which is the case now. So in that sense, MPC has lost, I will not call it relevance, but Reserve Bank of India has shown that it can be bypassed. That's for sure. But that doesn't mean that you don't take MPC seriously at all and don't even hold the MPC meeting because of lack of quorum, which is the case now. You need to have at least under the law 4 members to attend. And as Mythili said, if it's a 3-all scenario, governor has the casting vote. But that's the technicalities. Right now, why October 1 policy was very critical and any delay doesn't send a right signal to the market, because the market is restless. Market wants to know what is there in the RBI's mind. RBI governor has continuously been saying that I have too many bullets in my gun. I have not exhausted all the bullets, and I am ready to go to the extent. So will it go for what kind of OMO plan it has been, open market operations have been planning? Will it go for even direct printing of money, not the from covert to overt OMO, kind of thing, printing money? So these are the signals which you are waiting for, because you have to see the government borrowing program, which is 12.06 trillion, out of which 7.06 trillion in the first half. I think 7.66 or 7 close to 7 trillion is already over. There is 5 trillion more. We do not know. There is a possibility that it will be exceeded, and then add to the state government borrowing, which will come in lumps in the second half. So overall, we are looking for anywhere 22 to 23 trillion borrowing program between state and the center, because the tax revenue, etc., not coming up what was the expected level. So in that kind of scenario, the biggest challenge before the Reserve Bank of India, how do you ensure the government borrowing at the right kind of rate? Which means technically, how do you keep the bond yield low? Which means, would the RBI have said that, look, inflation has exceeded our mandate, that is 4% plus minus 2 in the last 10 months, 9 months, or out of 9 months, 8 months, it has exceeded inflation. But the talk is it will come down from December onwards. Probably we'll see 5% in December. Probably we'll see less than 5% in the first quarter of like January and March, and even 4% beyond March. So if RBI says that, which means market can take heart that yes, there could be rate cuts next calendar year. That will help to send a signal.
True, but I mean,
it's very critical.
Yes. You're absolutely right, Tamal, but one presumes that a decision will come sooner than later. the deadline has been missed for now,
Yeah.
but it's not been skipped altogether. Decision will come sooner or later, and then the market will get its signals. It's quite like, you know, missing deadlines, which sometimes journalists tend to do and get pulled up for it, but definitely it's not something expected from a government headed panel which is tasked with this very important job of selecting half of the Monetary Policy Committee. Thank you so much, Tamal and Mythili, for joining us and adding know, some color and context to what this story is about and why it's important.